use all necessary state, local, federal, and military resources to carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history.
Okay, so that's what Donald Trump was promising. We're gonna do this mass deportation. We have to because the country's filled with violent criminals, which it isn't. And we need the military. We need the military in American cities busting down the doors of, Charlottesville and Detroit and San Diego or whatever, because that's how dangerous these criminal gangs are. That's what he sold you. How is it actually working out? How are they actually generating the already far lower number of daily ICE arrests than they said they'd have? Well, in just about the most dishonest way possible. Take a look at this. We're gonna give you the facts, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about what effect, what message this is sending to the migrants in our country who are following the rules, doing everything the way they're supposed to. So ICE is doing some incredibly backhanded things to snare people. They've got this quota, 1,200 to 1,500 arrests a day, which is based on nothing other than Donald Trump pulled it out of his butt. And so here's how they're getting some people. People attending recent mandatory immigration check-ins or court appearances have been escorted out in federal custody. They're alleged to have been tricked, lied to, or otherwise deceived so that they could be snared in this mass deportation thing. There's no lower hanging fruit, the Guardian says, than immigrants following the rules who reliably show up when they're called in for immigration check-ins or court dates. So let's get into some specifics. Attorneys in New York say dozens of their clients have been detained and deported after reporting for seemingly routine check-ins related to their immigration cases since the election in November. For others in New York State, ICE check-ins now mean confiscated passports, ankle monitor requirements, and fingerprinting for kids. Very fun, very German mid-century. In neighboring New Jersey, non-citizens are being arrested at their appointments as well. In Florida, family members and advocates have accused immigration enforcement officials of luring community members into a government contractor's office, supposedly to fix an issue with their monitoring device or to sign a paper, only to take them into custody. Okay, so that's sort of broadly, they're doing that all over the country. Let's dive into a case study. One of the people affected by these tactics was a Miami-Dade County middle school science teacher who's lived in the US since he was 13 years old and reportedly had deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA legal protections, which means that he should not have been a priority of the mass deportations. Despite that, he was arrested at his regular immigration appointment just before Trump was inaugurated and has since been returned to Honduras. Thank God, the violent criminals are being taken off our streets. Sorry, not streets, science classrooms for sixth graders. They teach them about like ionic bonds or whatever for a person who knows really no other life than America and the service he is now doing to educate our next generation. Thank God he's been thrown out of the country. And to Honduras, a country that he likely knows no better than I would were I to be deported there tomorrow. To struggle, maybe he'll die in the streets, but that's justice under our current immigration system. And I want to remind everyone, Donald Trump once said, only migrants with the lowest IQ return for their court dates after being arrested by US immigration authorities. Now that was always a terrible and stupid thing to say and based in nothing because the vast majority of people who are given court dates to return to do actually do that. Those numbers have been very long established, which really puts the lie to his claims that, you release them in, you never see them again. That's not how it actually works. But that might be how it works soon, because now they know if I follow the rules, if I go to my court dates, if I check in, if I do the monitoring devices, I could very well be snatched up and sent to a country that I barely know. And so we had a situation that was orderly, that worked. There was some security. And now there will be chaos thanks to Donald Trump and his need to pretend that he's deporting violent criminals when he's really snatching up teachers. Viviana, what do you think?
It is a frightening set of circumstances because this obviously is just tragic, seeing people like this who are law-abiding citizens trying to do it legally, trying to get in line and do it the right way, so to speak. And it's a tragedy to see people like that suffering. And the other part of this that happens when you create this chaos that you just mentioned, when you create this atmosphere of fear, you start having, John, I used to be a social worker with LA County.
Yeah.
When you have people afraid that you'll get deported just for talking to a cop, you stop reporting child abuse. You stop telling people someone's screwing the little girl next door, or somebody's doing this, you stop taking your kids to the doctor maybe because they're really sick, and so then they infect the neighborhood kids, and people start having these ripple effects because they're so fearful of this big brother state. And so these are the kinds of things we might start seeing. We might start seeing an uptick in abuse of children without it being checked. There's all these little safeguards that we have, particularly for children, but also our elderly, also our disabled, which this administration doesn't really seem to care about those most vulnerable citizens. So this is something that not just affects people who are DACA and who are good law-abiding, working citizens, but it affects our most vulnerable, and it's really scary and it's sad.
Yeah, 100, you're totally right. This is undoubtedly going to lead to more crime. Now, in a community that will not feel, already probably didn't feel very much like they could trust law enforcement, but now they'll know if I'm attacked, if I'm robbed, if I'm raped, if I'm assaulted, I better keep it to myself, because I guess it's better than being sent back to El Salvador or whatever, a place that I don't know. I've been here for 20, 30, 50, 60 years. And so, what's that?
They're ripped from their families, It's
exactly 100%.
Where it's like, I'm leaving my wife, I'm leaving my children,
And look, a lot of people have pointed out that what Donald Trump has been doing since he came into office is very chaotic, that it's in all directions, which is true, but there are some through lines, and one of the through lines is chaos. It is leading to situations that will result in more chaos and crime. I know that a lot of Republicans think that Donald Trump worships the God that they worship. There's no chance in hell that that's true. But he does worship the God of crime and chaos, which is why everything he does leads to more crime and more chaos. You don't pardon violent insurrectionists, dudes who are going out trying to assassinate people, as we're gonna show you, dudes trafficking in child pornography and then saying, no, they're great, they're out, they're fine. And then trying to get Romania to allow the Tate boys to come back here. You don't have a president who himself is a multiple times over felon, already adjudicated as a sexual assaulter. Every one of these moves leads to more chaos and more crime. Why is he siding with the people trying to beat the life out of cops? Why is that the thing that conservatives who've always venerated law enforcement have now found themselves worshiping?